we can actually save a lot of time for you, so you can spend more time actually updating that content and making it very specific to your site and to your job itself. Jordan, thanks for the message. Find our current process very onerous, in particular the CPPs. We have the info, but it's held in too many different locations. Yeah, so once again, something that I do hear often. So today I'm going to show you how we can pull that information together and have all of that content all in one place for you to be able to create your RAMS. But perfect. I think we're ready to jump in now. It's 5 past. I'm sure we're going to have a few latecomers to the party as we run through. But just to let everyone know, any questions that you do have throughout the webinar, feel free to throw those in up at the top, either in the chat section where everyone's messaging now, or in the Q&A button up at the top as well. Irina would be able to be at hand to be able to sort of answer any of those questions as we go through. But if there is anything that's very specific to the product or a certain bit that we're on at that point, then Irina, feel free to shout at me, and we can stop and answer some of those questions there as well. But perfect. Thanks everyone for jumping on. I've noticed that we've got a few familiar names, so a few people that have joined before, and some existing customers as well. So thanks for jumping on. And I appreciate some of you have probably never seen HandsHQ before. This might be the first time that you've ever heard of us and actually seen our system as well. But yeah, this is HandsHQ. So just to give you a bit of a background on us. So HandsHQ has been around now for about sort of 8 or 9 years, I think. And when we first started, it was very much so creative for those sort of one-man in a van businesses, you know, small businesses that need to create RAMs, don't really have the time to do so. But when the system was created, we realized actually it's not just these very small businesses that have these issues. It's a scalable challenge across some of the largest businesses. And now we work with international or national companies with multiple divisions and hundreds of engineers. So it really is a scalable solution regardless of the size of your business. But essentially what our system is created to do is to really streamline the process of generating and managing risk assessments and method statements and CPPs from start to finish. The generation of those, then distributing those documents out, and then managing those documents as well once that project is actually finished. So that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. I'll jump into it now, but any questions, feel free to throw those into the Q&A up at the top. Great, so this is HandsHQ. Hopefully everyone's able to see my screen. If you can't, then let us know in the chat. But yeah, this is HandsHQ. When you log into the system, so it's a web-based, a cloud-based platform. So it essentially means that providing you've got an internet connection, you can always access the system, write any RAMs, update any RAMs as well. When you log into the system, first page that you come to is your projects page. Your projects page is essentially your dashboard where all of your different RAMS documents will live. So we refer to them as projects. That's just our terminology. You can change the wording if you want, but projects or tasks or jobs, contracts, whatever you want to refer to them as within your business. So we can see all of our projects here. So our project name, any client details, reference number for the job, when that document is last updated. We, as part of our risk register, you can also see whether you've got up-to-date risk assessments within those. We can also create an internal approval process, which I'll briefly sort of show you later. And then you've also got the ability to archive any documentation as well. So if this one, for example, job's now finished, we can archive that document. It sort of disappears into the archive section. However, obviously at any point, you can restore that information, restore that document if you ever need it for any sort of auditing purposes or whatever it may be. We can see here that we've got a couple of different colored icons. So anything green means that that project's currently live. Anything yellow means that that project has got a future start date. So we've created that RAMS document, but the job doesn't actually start for 2-3 weeks. Then anything gray means that project has now actually ended. Up at the top left here, you can see we've got this drop down. Essentially what this is, it will allow us to split HandsHQ up into different divisions. So where we work with these sort of like national businesses and they've got different divisions, maybe nationally or regionally around the country, or they've got different sort of industries that they work within, maybe like M&E, and then you've got HVAC and then civil engineering. We can actually split the system up into those different divisions, which you can jump in between. Each division can have their own content library, their own risk assessments and method statement information. So you're not everything is in one, not everything's not in one place. They're just split into those different divisions if you wanted it to be created like that. But let's jump into a brand new project. So let's actually create our site-specific risk assessment and method statement from scratch. So what we do is we hit this new project button up in the top right. And then we come through to our first step of our 4-step process. The first step is very straightforward. It's just our project details. So this is actually where we can enter in our job information. So our project name, let's just call this for now, M&E London Bridge. We can then add in any reference numbers for the project. And then we can also add in our start date. So let's say that this is a job that starts in a couple of weeks' time. And then we can add in our client details as well. Let's just call this TFL, for instance, for now. We can then also add our locations of work. So let's say this is Smith Street and so on. So it's very straightforward at this point. We're literally just filling in the blanks and adding in our information for our RAMS document. It's worth noting when you do create CQPs through HandsHQ, the process is very much the same. It's obviously just going to ask you some more CDM related questions throughout as well. So this 4-step process stays the same. You've just got more information to fill in, but I can jump onto that towards the end as well. So once we've added in our project details, we can move through to our next step. And this is where we come into the risk assessment library. So essentially the risk assessment library, what we have here is we are prompting the user to consider all of the hazards on site and build the risk profile for our job. So adding in all of the sort of associated hazards or tasks that we are doing within our job. So we've got a general category up here. It is worth noting as well, this library that you're seeing, regardless of what package you're on HandsHQ, you will have access to this. But on our larger packages, what we do have the ability to do, if your work is very bespoke in terms of the industry that you work in, the jobs that you do, we can create a full bespoke library off of your own risk assessment. So we can actually take your risk assessments that you have at the moment and pull those into the system for you as part of our onboarding process. So we have our general category. Let's go. Let's say, okay, arrival and departure from site is the first sort of hazard that we've associated for our job. We can select this. We can then go into edit. And then we'll have all of the associated risk assessments for arriving and departure of from site. But this is where we can go ahead and make these site specific. So we can deselect anything that we deem actually isn't applicable for our job. So electric shock from overhead cables. Okay, that's not applicable for our job. So we can deselect it and it won't show up in our final document. But as we go down below, cross before and load, yes, this has the potential to happen on our site. So we can leave it selected. We can then go into edit. And this is actually where we can update this information and make it a little bit more specific to our sites. We can say, you know, it's a 2-ton pallet on Smith Street. You've got your 5x5 risk matrix as well, which you can change and update if you need to. Got our control measures, which once again we can edit, and then you've got your residual risk as well. And then below we've got our persons at risk. So once we've made this site specific, we can update. And then we can go in and make any more changes or updates to any more of the content that we need. This is really where you're going to see a sort of rise in quality and also consistency of documentation as well, because everyone, regardless of your experience or your knowledge, everyone's starting from the same point as well, and then updating it. So all of this sort of information, what we tend to see with a lot of our customers, the library is controlled. So the information, the hazards and control measures are always updated and maintained by someone in the office, maybe health and safety. And then those project teams out on site can select this information. So they've got the confidence to know that they're using the most up-to-date content that's being controlled by health and safety as well. So we can move back into the library and then start to add some more elements that are applicable for our job. As I scroll down, you can see just how many categories we do have in here. But once again, if anything's not relevant to you, we can take it out. And if there's sort of holes, any information that are missing as part of those larger packages where they're more customized, we can actually start adding that content in for you, or you're actually able to do that yourself as well. Feel free to throw in any questions if anyone's got any questions at all. Happy to answer those as we go through. So as we scroll down, once again, you can see that we've got all of these different sort of categories in here. Let's go for electrical, for example, and we'll go for installing new lighting as part of our job. We can whack some HVAC in there as well, just for now. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a good idea of how the library works. It's very straightforward, essentially just finding the works that you need. So once we've done that, once we've selected and sort of build that profile of the hazards, we can then move on to our next step. This is where we come on to our sequence operation. So essentially the way that you would like the team to go about completing that job in the safest possible way. Now, as we selected HVAC, we also selected electrical, and therefore it's only pulling through any tasks that are relevant to that, to those selections that we've made. So if we wanted to go with installing lighting, this is the job that we're doing, and this is the standard sequence operations that we want the team to be following. So from here, it's really straightforward. Once again, you can update this, manipulate it, edit it, and make it very site specific. So if you wanted to add any information, then you can do so. You can also deselect any of the sequence that isn't maybe applicable. You can drag and drop the sequence around, and you can also add any images as well. So it's really handy for the ability to add any images, because this is where obviously you've got the ability to make it a little bit more pictorial than normal. So if you do have any language barriers on site, for example, you can actually add images in as part of that sequence of operations. So it's sort of transferable to the rest of the team as well. And then we can move through to the next step. This is where we come on to our final step of the process. This is actually our method statement. So based on the selections that we've made on all of our previous steps, we'll determine what gets pulled through into the method statement section here. So we can see here that obviously training information is being pulled through. You can pre-populate information into the description of activity. However, I appreciate that every job is slightly different, so it might be worth leaving this one empty for then you to fill out based on what's happening for that job. But as we go down below, you can see that a lot of this content information has been already uploaded for us based on those previous selections. You can add any information in at any point. You can also take any out. And obviously, once you take that information out, the heading won't show up in the final document as well. But yeah, you've really got the ability to sort of update and edit any of this content here as well. In the same way as the step before, you do have the ability to upload any images. So for example, in this one, if we wanted to upload an image, let me see if I can find one of a map to the closest hospital, for example, then you can do so and it'll just pull through that image for you straight away, and you can add your caption, change the size of the image as well if you wanted to. So much easier than Word, using those templates and trying to drag and drop images in, where you're dragging an image in, all of a sudden your text blows up and it's all over the page, and you've got to spend 5-10 minutes trying to actually just reformat your document back again. This is upload that document the image straight into the system. So as we go through, you can see that we've got more sort of sections to the method statement. Once again, in the same way as what I mentioned earlier about those more bespoke accounts, packages that we do, we can actually change this whole method statement and add different sections in as and what you would need. Then also got the ability to add your hazardous substances. I'll show you how we can actually add a COSHH assessment to our document in a moment as well. And then you've got your PPE requirements here too. So I think as standard, we've got our 5 points of PPE selected here. And obviously our face masks as well for the moment. But great, so that's the method statement. Very straightforward, very easy at this point. Once we've done so and completed that, we can then hit next. And believe it or not, that's us done. So we've now generated our RAMS document. There's a few sort of features and additional bits and pieces that we can do from this point. But it's worth noting that all of our documents are always live documents. So that essentially means that at any point throughout the life cycle of this project, once it's created, or the life cycle of the job, you can always go back into that RAMS document and actually add new risk assessments or add sections to the method statement. So it's not locked once you've created it. So as you can see here, I can jump back into the risk assessment. Let's say if I wanted to add delivery of materials to the project, we could do so, and obviously go into edit and make it site specific. We can save and exit. It's then actually going to ask us for a reason as to why we've editing. So if I just say we've added a risk assessment, and then once again, I can click next. But what's really handy with this, we've updated that risk assessment. You've now got an activity tab, which shows how that document has changed over time. So you can see your date, timestamps, who's updated it, and the reason why it's been updated as well. Obviously great for sort of ISOs, especially to be able to show that sort of document management and document control. as well through this step here. You can also download any previous versions of that document as well, if you ever need to. Just before I show you the approval and sign off process in the final document itself, just wanted to show you the ability to add COSHH assessments to the system. So we have this tab here, which is COSHH. We can just hit this button, which is add COSHH, come through to our library. So we now essentially just need to find the substance that we're going to be using. So if we wanted to say, right, we're going to be using mastic, we can then go to add COSHH, and it's going to ask us a few questions, which is going to make this a use-specific COSHH assessment. So, you know, what's your quantity that's kept on site? You've got drop-down menus for your method of use. Who are those persons at risk? Frequency of exposure, and so on. So fill in all of this information for your COSHH. We can add the COSHH assessment. We can then move back to our project, and we can now see that our mastic substance has now been added to our document as well, which I'll show you in a second. So you can always go back in and edit as well if needs be. And then also, you do also have the ability to upload any additional PDFs. So if there's any sort of additional information that you want to be added to this, which is outside of a RAMS, maybe some of your like insurances, any form of certification, then you can do so just by hitting the upload PDF button, and you can just pull that onto the back of the document, which would just be entered in here as well. But yeah, let's show you. So once we've generated that RAMS document, then this is the part where we can actually submit for approval. This would be more of an internal approval process, which I'll be able to show you now. And was it Noel earlier? Noel, you mentioned that this is the part of the process where the experts would draft or generate the RAMS document, and then it's up for the managers to actually review them. This is, I guess, where we can sort of build that into the process. So we've got this submit for approval up at the top here. So once this document has been generated, a lot of the time what we actually see is we see project manager team or site managers generating these RAMs, and then they'll send them for approval to the health and safety team, for example, but it can work in any which way that you want it to. You can select who at the business you want to approve that document and then submit for approval. In this case, I would then receive an email to say, you know, Joe Bloggs has created M&E London Bridge RAMS. Can you please review and approve? So I would then click that email that I've received, come through to this page, I can preview the document, and then I can go, yes, best RAMS ever, hopefully, and then we can just approve that RAMS document. So now, essentially, that's been given the internal thumbs up from the team to say, yes, this has the right information that it needs and is ready to now be sent off to your client, which you can actually do through the system. You can just hit this email button, and you've got the ability to distribute this document straight out to your clients. Add a bit of a text to your email as well if you wanted to, but really straightforward to distribute these documents straight out to your clients as well. And then finally, down at the bottom, this is actually how we get the RAMS documents out to those engineers, out to the boots on the ground, if you like. It's a really straightforward process. What we have here is we have a button which is add personnel. This is where we can search for a member of the team. So once you've added someone to the system once, they'll always be remembered. So we can actually add Alan to the document here. We do actually have, you can see this here, that we've got the training status that says Alan is valid for the project. We do actually have another product, which I will very briefly touch upon in a moment. However, we are doing another webinar on it next week, but we do have our training register, which is essentially a replacement for your big Excel spreadsheets of your training matrix. And essentially this is now pulling through to say that Alan has got the right training, or his training is up to date to be able to actually go to that job. And we can now see that also the signature is yet to be sent. So what we can do is we can hit this get signature button and ask everyone to sign the latest version. Alan would then receive an email to say, right, here is the M&E London Bridge RAMS, please review and actually sign off on these. There's two ways that we'd do this. Alan can receive that email, open the RAMS up on their phone, scroll through the RAMS, and then at the bottom it will say accept or reject, and you can click accept or reject if you wanted to, but click accept and then just sign off on that RAMS document in that way. The other way of being able to do that is actually we would allow for those members of the team either to log in the system or the site manager log in the system, and each of those engineers come to the computer, find their name, and then they can just select sign now. What this is going to do is it's going to show you the final document first, that obviously that you're signing off. So we'll run through this quickly now. So this is the document that we've created. Obviously, it have your logo and business information here as well. The revision number updates itself automatically each time as well. So it's not something that you have to manually sort of remember to do and update yourself. And then we can see that the start of our method statements, our sequence operations. And then we come into sort of the main bulk of our method statement. All this information in here for us. We've got our images that have been pulled through and formatted for us as well. One thing with these documents as well, which is worth mentioning, they can be as long or as short as you would like. It just depends on what information that you want to add in. I'm sure a few of you on this course in at 16 pages, a few of you are probably thinking, well, that's way too big. And some of you are probably thinking that's not, hasn't got as enough detail in it. But you can make these as long, as short as you would like, depending on what content you want to put in there. We've got customers that want a 10-page document. We've got others that want a 200-page document that literally covers everything. So it's really, really up to you with how you want them to look. But then we come on to our risk assessments. So obviously we had our 5x5 grid up at the top being explained for you. And then we've got our hazards, control measures, risk, and residual risk laid out really quite nicely as well. They flow really quite nicely. I've had the pleasure of reading hundreds, probably if not thousands of different RAMs from different companies. One thing that I found in common with a lot of them is just how much content and writing is thrown onto one page, really small text. No one's going to read them. So for us, it was all about finding the easiest way to be able to pick these documents up and read through them, flow nicely. I know I always think as long as someone who's on site that has no experience at all, has never read a risk assessment and method statement and can understand what these risk assessments are saying, then that's the best sort of format to suit. So as we run through the risk assessments, if I just shoot to the bottom, we've got a signature page. So in a minute, when I sign this, my signature is going to be in print here. And then below, we have our COSHH assessment, which is created for us as well. The SDS sheet is bolted onto the back of the document, but you can decide whether you want that or not. Some clients, it's it has to be there. It's mandatory. Others, it's just padding to the document, so you can deselect that if you don't want that there. So Alan, in this example, has read through the RAMS, happy to get to work, understands the risks, agreed to the risk assessment, can just select accept down at the bottom here. What this is actually going to do is actually going to take an image of the person that's signing the document. Now, the reason why we do this, obviously, when it's sent to, God, what horrible picture that is. When it's sent to their phone, we know it's them because it's gone to their email address. But when it's sent, if they've logged into the system, we want to do our due diligence, making sure that you've got the right people sign off on the right documents. So you can always jump back into the system at any point. You're able to see the horrific photo, which has been captured here. So all of those images are always stored in the system if you ever need to go back and find that information as well. Jordan, got a quick question I've just seen. Is there a COSHH SES library on the system already, or does that all have to be pre-populated? Yes, so with the COSHH section here, so within the COSHH library, it's a shared library across all of our sort of customers, all of our larger customers that have access to COSHH. There is about 10,500 substances in here already, if not more now. But essentially, if something's missing, all you need to do is send us the SDS sheet and we'll actually add that to the system for free for you. So yeah, it's always growing. If there's a company that we have that's in a very similar industry to you, which I'm sure we do, then that substance is probably already there within the system. If it's not, then we can just add that for you. And then once it's in the system, it's always going to be there for you to access. But good question. Any more questions, then feel free to throw those in. We are coming towards the end now, but I've just got a few more sort of features just to show you before we do sort of close up and jump onto the Q&A part of the show. So yeah, so that's our RAMS document essentially created, done. We've now generated our RAMS document. You can always download it as a PDF if you want your own version on your own servers. You can also obviously preview your document at any point and jump in and edit from the start. Just wanted to show you the activity tab as it's been updated over time, which we can see here. But if we just go back onto our main projects dashboard, we can now see that document that we've created lives up at the top. It's got the yellow tab because that's a job that starts in a couple of weeks, but it has been approved internally as well. You do have the ability to obviously duplicate this document as well. If you're doing a job, let's say at Waterloo Bridge, which is exactly the same as the London Bridge job, then you can duplicate the document and then just jump in and change the site specifics as well. Alternatively, we do have a lot of our customers that like us to turn off the ability to duplicate because they want all of their engineers to generate this document from scratch each time, which can be done as well. We've got a few of the different tabs up at the top. So we've got our risk register. Our risk register is essentially the place where actually you're able to control the content and update the content. So you can always jump in here and update any risk assessments. Let's say one site has had an incident or a near miss for slip, trips and falls. You can actually jump in here and change or update the control measures for slip, trips and falls. And once you've made that update within the risk register, that will then be pushed out to the library. So any risk assessments, any current jobs that have got an out-of-date risk assessment, it's going to tell you to update it. Or anytime that you create a brand new document, it's always going to have the new and most up-to-date recent information in there as well. So that's the risk register. And then finally, we have our personnel, which is essentially our training register or a training matrix replacement. This is going to send you out email notifications as and when training is due to expire, and obviously links in with the RAMS. So when you generate your RAMS, you can download the RAMS report, and you can also download a training report for all of those engineers or site managers, project managers, whoever they are that are going to that site as well. I won't go into this now because we are actually doing a webinar next week on this. So please do make sure that you sign up for it if this is a sort of a challenge of yours. And I'll be able to go into this in isolation and actually show you how this works and the benefits that obviously it can bring above and beyond what Excel can hopefully is giving you at the moment. But yeah, that is a quick run through of the system. Please send any final questions that you do have. Feel free to shoot those into the chat or the Q&A section that you can see up at the top. Happy to answer a few of your questions before we do move on. So yeah, please do let us know. What I will do is I'll hopefully be able to sort of give everyone that's joined, there is quite a few of you, but I'll be able to give everyone a call around, or a member of our team will be able to give everyone a call around today just to answer a few questions that you might have had, or give you an idea on price and the different packages that we have as well. If you did want a more in-depth look at certain aspects of the system, then we're more than happy to book a sort of one-to-one screen share with you to look at the system or look at a few different features in isolation and really show how it can be customized for you as a business as well. So yeah, any final questions, feel free to throw those in. Once again, just as a reminder, we've got another webinar next week. We will be sending out the recording of this session to you as well. And I'm sure there'll be a link on there to join and sign up for next week as well. But it'd be good to see you there. But yeah, any questions, final questions, feel free to throw those in. Otherwise, I'll let everyone get back to their busy day. I appreciate we've overrun by a couple of minutes, so I do apologize for that. And yeah, thanks everyone for jumping on today. It's a pleasure to run through the system with everyone as always. But feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions, or we'll get in touch with you. And hopefully see you next week as well. But I think that's it for all of the questions. So thanks very much for joining, everyone. Good to see everyone on here. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for joining. And yeah, we'll speak to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.